Bow, bow, dzz, dzz, dzz. Bow, 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 bow. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Bow, 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 bow. It's only forever. It's not long at all. Lost and I'm lonely, down and lost underground. Well, that's as much of that amazing David Bowie, The Labyrinth song as I could remember, but boy, does it feel good to sing that. Greetings everyone, this is CM Kozeman, answering a special selection of fan questions from a certain friend living in the Northwestern Hemisphere. Thank you, Marianne. The short of the long story is, if you subscribe me on Patreon, there's a link, and the link is below and the video description and in the pinned comment, where you can actually go and ask your questions and I will answer them in special videos like this. Now, Marianne has been a contributing patron on patreon.com for a long time. So, she, like many other of you, get to ask questions. So, last couple of days actually, she has been kind enough to direct a very interesting barrage of questions my way. These are mostly about culture and local life and parts of my artistic practice and maybe even personal life that I haven't really touched much on in this channel. So it's always welcome and refreshing that I get questions like these questions and not the more run-of-the-mill when is all tomorrow's coming out kind of questions. But if you support me on patreon.com, those are also coming. So I will also answer them if you ask them. And before starting, I would also like to remind everyone that channel update, we just passed 40,000 subscribers recently, and I cannot thank all of you enough. Thank you all for listening to this channel, subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. I'm really proud that almost every video on this channel gets like 100% good likes, and there's almost no negative feedback, which is extremely rare in YouTube these days. And I'm also really proud that this channel has fostered a small community, and under every video there are people asking questions, exchanging opinions, sometimes writing lengthy paragraph style comments, which are very insightful. And well, I'm really happy to meet each and every one of you from all around the world, basically. 40,000 people, not much by YouTube standards, but remember, like, if you're a pastor or something and if you got 40,000 people listening to you, that's a lot. Most of us, it's enough to fill a stadium. So, oh yeah, that's kind of honoring. It's about the size of a small US town, don't you think? And it only makes me smile like a funny kid. Thank you all so much. Okay, without much ado, let's go. Before answering one more last channel update, this channel also has a merch store. So, if you want to wear CM Kozeman branded t-shirts and stuff, that's the place to go. It's also in the video description and in the pinned comment. You can go there now and get your hands on the special Coup Domination t-shirt, which has the image of the famous Coup creatures from All Tomorrows. And they're all on like very nice 100% thick cotton. So do go there and do get those. They really help me out. I make a slim profit margin from them, and they're not cheap, but they are durable. In fact, I chose that service, Creator Spring, especially because they make durable products. There was something else, I think it was called Redbubble or something, but I learned that Redbubble t-shirts were kind of cheap. I mean, they wore out after a couple of months. But with these Creator Spring t-shirts, you will be able to carry your CM Kozeman merchandise and flaunt it for years, maybe generations to come. And if you buy and wear those things, send me pictures and I will share them. So that's always an added extra high honor for me. Okay, let's go. Marianne is a very curious and also very talented fan. She's a traditional glass display artist stained glass windows and soldering, like extremely talented person. I really respect her, and I hope these answers find her and her family well. And once again, if you're inspired by these questions, and if you're in the fanboy or fangirl mode and want to ask Daddy Cosman some questions of your own, please go to Patreon on the linked comments. Okay, that was a 6-minute preamble. With that out of the way, let's go. Number 1. I noticed that you often visit old ruins. Why? Good question. Well, there are two kinds of old ruins that I enjoy visiting. One are the very common historic ruins we find all over Turkey and Anatolia and in surrounding countries. And basically, this is like a storied region of the world. There are like Roman ruins, Greek ruins, unidentified civilization ruins everywhere. And usually these are open to visit as tourist sites. So whenever I'm traveling and my path crosses them, I visit them. But these are only one sort of ruin. And usually these are very nice places. They're kind of overgrown, usually totally free to get into, but it's like a mix of history and nature. There's always these bugs and snakes and lizards running around in them, and it's always very fun to visit them. Very inspiring. The second kind of ruin that I like to visit, on the other hand, is the abandoned mall or the abandoned house or the abandoned ruined parking lot, construction site kind of place. And I really love exploring these places. And unfortunately for me, I haven't been able to find anyone who shares this interest with me, except maybe for my videographer and photographer friend Durmuş Bayram. But usually, unfortunately, these are all lonely expeditions, and it kind of makes me sad, I mean, my immediate family, let me say that much, finds them risky, or maybe like my wife worries there's like a homeless person living there ready to cut my throat. But this is almost never the case. Even if you do encounter a homeless person, they're more worried about you seeing them than them seeing you. So, by the way, for the record, I've maybe penetrated and explored dozens of weird places like that. And only once did I run into a suspicious situation. And even back then, I could see the other person coming from like 100 meters away. And I just moved back. So you just retreat. Who the fuck cares? Nobody's gonna do anything to you. So there. And I enjoy this second type of ruin because as the OG ruin haunter, it's just so refreshing to, look for little valuata items there. I collect these like old vinyl floorboards and then later paint on them. Sometimes I find this like weird old wooden plaques or like this pieces of wood basically that I take home and paint on. Sometimes they're filled with garbage and I don't take those home, but they're just really interesting to document, explore. And these days I am walking around with a little smart action camera, and I've actually filmed lots and lots of these like unexplored abandoned house expeditions. I just have to edit them and put them on YouTube, and long story short, I can't edit long files because my computer is 13 years old. Its memory is clogged, and well, I'm just in the process of updating my systems, and when those happens, whoo daddy, the movies are gonna be like flying off the shelf like there's no tomorrow. So get ready. Marianne keeps asking, do you explore these places because you want to have access to tangible time travel? Maybe, I guess definitely especially in the case of that old, like legitimate quote unquote historic ruins, ruins that are older than a couple of 100 years old. It really feels like when you touch those stones, and especially like if they're like statues or friezes around, if you like touch them, you really are connecting with the past in a way that nobody else does when they're reading books. So that's a definite example of time travel. But when I'm exploring these abandoned or filthy places, two other feelings manifest themselves. And let's go on with Marianne's sub-questions. Is it because the aesthetic of the architecture inspires you? Yes, definitely. With the modern abandoned structures, the abandoned malls or the empty houses, there's something strangely calming. Because at home, I'm a neatness freak. Like I clean all over the place. I try to keep things tidy. Every kind of object has its own place, and when they're not in their own place, I get mad. But when I'm in an abandoned building, all the effects of time have been washed away. It's just the bare bones of the building, and I don't know, there's something like calming about this? Maybe the coming of the ultimate order that is chaos. I don't know. Or Marianne asks, is there an old energy that you want to tap? Okay. Well, there's no getting around this fact that, these expeditions to these like empty places, whatever, they kind of arouse me in a way. In both senses of the world, intellectually and, hubba down there. If you watch some of the expedition videos on this channel, you kind of like see me trembling with excitement. And I don't know, never thought about it that intimately. Okay, there's this like savage joy of like penetrating a place, and you're probably not the only person to be there, but it's a kind of part of the city that's outside the bounds of law. It's not someplace nobody would visit on a schedule. It's not someplace you go to do anything. And that's exciting, I must add. That's even erotic in a way, and I don't expect some of you to understand, but it is what it is. I guess this is the feeling that metastasizes into this dogging phenomenon in cases of lonely men. Thank God I'm not lonely then. Or Marianne asks, is it because you are a history geek? I like history, but seldom when I explore ruined places, seldom do I get to like point out, that's a Gothic arc, that's a Byzantine thing, that's Spolia. But that's also interesting to know and comment on, I mean, one of my favorite moments, and I still curse myself because I could not film this thing, was all the way back in 2010. I explored this old abandoned warehouse in a certain part of Istanbul, and it was a warehouse built in the late Ottoman times, so maybe like mid to late 1800s, something like that. But this part of the city was also like littered with Byzantine ruins, literally. So after going through all these like weird iron girders, stone walls, crumbling embankments and stuff like that, I also saw a little cat that had given birth to like tiny kittens, and that was really admirable. Really cute. I came across this like wall in which one of the stones they had used was almost certainly a spolia. Spolia being an archaeological term. It is when you steal something from an older building and use it, recycle it in your own building, and it's a very common thing in the Mediterranean world. And in this like Ottoman post-industrial warehouse, there was this one stone with this upside down and half cut Greek letters on it. And that was really touching. I don't know if it was Byzantine or like maybe some still Ottoman era Greek thing, but it was there and it was magical. So yeah, I think like being a history geek helps in that respect. But I take less pleasure from, let's say, going to the Hagia Sophia and like looking at the mosaics and like, I mean, that's still fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's more enjoyable if I'm alone and exploring things on my own and, nobody has seen that and written a little label about it. That's always the kind of expedition that gets my juices flowing. And once more, it's very lonely. I wish I had somebody to accompany with, but I don't know. Or Marianne asks, do you like expeditions because of something else I'm not thinking of? Well, Marianne, I think the answer was more than I predicted. So there are your answers. I mean, these trips, and I'm lucky to live in a city where there are lots of abandoned places. And these trips, they don't even have to be to like some like dangerous ruined old factory. I mean, it could be just a mall that's open on very early morning, and I'm just walking around there looking at all the weird closed stores, and there's a sign kind of like subconscious. In times like this, you realize that your subconscious is not a concentric ring. You don't have the conscious and the subconscious. It's not a layer below you. It's actually a freaking Mobius strip. If you don't know what a Mobius strip is, it's this like weird trick you can do where you take a ribbon, twist one end and glue it, becomes a loop, but the outside and the inside are the same. And in trips like this, I realize that my subconsciousness, my subconscious desires, thoughts, longings, whatever they are a part of a Mobius strip. Okay. Wow, Marianne really hit hard in the first question. Okay. Number 2. What is the place of rituals in your routine and everyday life? Okay, this is a whole other question and a very nice one. I'm a secular guy, but I retain the only bare minimum of, let's say, pan-Mediterranean common rituals. When somebody talks about like something bad, an accident or something, I always like go knock on wood. When this is part of me that some of my family members find extremely traditional, but like when someone does me a favor, they buy me a meal or get me a gift or say something, in local language I say Allah razı olsun, which says like may God be with you, because you've been kind to me. And I use this phrase in like let's say I'm at the grocery stand and like I'm looking for cucumbers and I said these cucumbers are bad, and the guy is like, okay, here are the new ones, and gives me like a good bargain. I say Allah razı olsun. Okay, it's just a very traditional, too traditional for like some of the more like secular Turkish people who think they're Western, I guess. Oh, but plot twist, you're not. All right, any other rituals? I got a lot of like personal rituals of my own. I mean, some of these were really, really silly. Like when I was younger, I'm talking about like mid-20s, and I first started painting, I used to always spit in the paint itself so that it would have some of my essence in it. So there was one ritual. Other rituals, I don't know. I'm not like a formulaic ritual kind of guy. There's a part of my family and like ethnic heritage that is Sephardic Jewish, for example. But I would never find it right to myself to like, or maybe do Jewish prayers or Shabbat prayers, or I mean, same thing with the part of my history that's Turkish and Muslim. I am not religious, so I would not uptake those rituals in a sort of ordained and prescribed way. But I have lots of weird personal rituals of my own. Like when I see a starving insect or like a small bug that's turned upside down, I flip it back up. Maybe like if it's possible, give it some sugar crumblings so that it feeds, It's because I think all of these animals have a soul, and somehow, somewhere in the future, after I pass, I may have to answer for that. So I always try to never inflict pain on fellow creatures if I can help it. If I have to kill something, like swat a mosquito or something, or like there were these times where I had to, like, some bird hit my window and it was basically thrashing in agony, and I had to put this thing out of its misery, then you have to like move very fastly and deftly and not cause unjust pain. Let me say that much. Oh, Marianne's questions really launched me into this weird zone today. I don't know. It's one of those overcast summer days just before it's about to rain, so maybe that has to do with it too. I don't know. Any other rituals? I don't know. I have lots of personal neatness rituals. As I just told before earlier, right now, I have to like keep things organized before I start working. I've just started working with oils, for example, and like I set apart a whole other jar and other corner of the living room for the oil paints because they have to have their own thing. I don't know. Maybe it's the subconscious kosher in me welling up. I don't know. I don't know if these are rituals or like mental deficits at this stage, but like I just cannot tolerate the sight of little beads or buttons lying around. So like that's a no in the Kozman house. One of the few things I force my partner or wife to do. No jewelry. But I don't know. Like, these are as close to rituals as I come. I don't pray, but I guess I'm some sort of an agnostic. But as I age, I feel less and less atheistic, and more I discover a sense of belief that's, I think, uniquely is my own. And if you've been following this channel, I've been talking a lot about that. Basically, everything is sentient and alive. And you have to, like, as a good entity, you have obligations to them. And maybe, I mean, it's all Deepak Chopra kind of shit, but maybe in line of these personal beliefs, a kind of set of rituals is evolving in my life. But I don't know. Marianne, are you secretly a psychologist? I don't know. And smack in the tail of that comes, does your partner share the same art taste as you? How does she coexist with your art? Very good question. I'm married almost for a decade now, and I won't comment much on marriage. It's a complicated roller coaster ride. But of course, like even if I was like casually dating, why would I be involved with somebody who doesn't share the, like, I don't mind if, I mean, it's kind of a silly, there's some of these like trendy bourgeois bohemian art people who walk around like, oh, I could never be with someone who has a live, laugh, love print on their walls. I have to have high art. If they don't get Andy Warhol, they don't get me. Like, I'm not like that, In fact, in my house and living place, there's a lot of pictures on the wall, but few are mine. Because I think it's kind of like, it's kind of selfish. Like if you're an artist, oh, these are all my paintings, these are all my paintings, these are, that's kind of like selfish. Like you wake up, you look at your own painting, you go to the shitter, you look at your own drawing of a snake or some shit. That's kind of self-involved. So the kind of pictures on my wall, let me see, there are a couple of family pictures, tasteful. There's something my wife painted during a holiday, that's nice. I mean, there's a painting of mine which I rescued from my father's office when my father's office freaking burned down 2 years ago in the year of our Lord 2021, and I lost 70% of my early paintings and it was horrible. But this painting somehow survived. It's like half signed, so it has a nice like weird dark tone. So kind of like, I like storied artifacts on my walls, and the stories you obviously make with your life. What else? I got these framed snake sheddings that I found under walls and stuff, and those always look cool when you like find a snake shedding in one piece and you glue it drop by drop onto a thick kind of cardboard and you frame that. It's really nice. I got an original print from Sebah and Joaillier, and these are like pioneers of photography in the late Ottoman years, and it's probably the most expensive item in this goddamn house. It was my father's gift. He's also a photographer. Well, his studio burnt down. His negatives were untouched, but all my paintings burnt down. So, I don't know. Maybe someone put a hex on me. Who knows? What else? I mean, I don't have that much because that much else. I got my libraries, bookshelves, and on my library shelves, I alternate these like unframed prints and stuff. Like, they look nice, but I keep changing them. So there. By the way, if you want to send me gift art and gift postcards on your own, please do so. Just let me know in the comments and I'll get back in touch with you and we can arrange a delivery. And, well, I would be happy to have your artwork or your postcards in my collection. So there. So that's my taste as art. Like, so, I mean, let me generalize. And so with my partners in the past, I didn't care that much if they were into art. I only cared that, they liked and respected me. And like when you're in a long relationship, actually, like, and for the unmarried, uninitiated, or uncommitted people out there, if you're still living with your parents, the biggest fights you will ever have in your life and in your marriage will not be because of some deep issues, attachment problems, boundary issues. It will be because who wants to hang the goddamn Chungili Bim Bom Mac teddy bear poster in which part of the house? And that's all. And if you're smart, you realize that's actually like a fissure for something else. But yeah, I mean, when people live together, you have like lots of silly arguments like this. But once again, I mean, I've been lucky that my wife really liked and respected my art. When we were dating, actually, like, she got 20 or 50 frames for me to frame my artwork and like hang around the walls. But we just don't even have that much space, so the frames are still in storage, waiting for the final day they will be hung. So I think she really respected my talents, and that's special. And but yeah, I mean, I don't know, like it depends on the person. And I know I just like I'll cut this one short. I like and respect everyone who likes and respects the things I create, but they don't have to be out there. So that's that. Half an hour already. Do you have a pet? And if you do, does your pet influence your artwork? Well, unfortunately, I spent so much time out of the house, and I live in an apartment block, and it would just be torture if we had a pet. It would be torturous to us. Like, my parents have a cat, and when they were moving, we had to take care of the goddamn cat for a couple of months, 5 months, and the fucking cat began running the house and running us. Like, it was like, let's go to bed at night. Cat has the zoomies. You wake up in the morning. First thing you do, not take care of yourself. Oh no, you gotta clean the cat's shit first, and you gotta clean the cat's shit sand from all over the floor. I fucking like spent a lot of money for a handheld vacuum, and the fucking cat broke that too. God damn you, cat. Now I think, like, jokes aside, the cat is still with my parents, so I like that cat. Only from a distance, you know. If you're working all day, plants are the new pets, pets are the new kids, and kids are the new suicide. I mean, in many of my, let's say, cohort, people who are around 30, 35, 40 years old, kids, taking care of kids is really, really hard. So there. And if you have kids and you're raising them, you're doing God's work, and I salute you all. You know, it's a kind of dedication I can't imagine. And I think, like, it puts your life on the commitment mode. Like, you have to, like, either do this shit or die trying. So that kind of pressure, you know, hard to handle. My respect goes out to you. All right. Because of that, I got lots of plants. I steal plants from restaurants and weddings, and I propagate them. I got lots of succulents in the balcony. I got a rubber fig tree, which is really nice. I got some agave plants indoors, and those Tradescantia plants indoors. They grow all over the place. Those are nice. For pets, I only catch and keep local invertebrates. So at the present, actually, we are recording on the 9th of June. I have 3 Tupperware tubs full of local snails and slugs and mollusks. In one, I have 2 enormous snails. I quote from Ankara, which is another city in Turkey. But in the gardens and backyards of this city, there are these enormous snails, land snails. They're almost the size of African land snails, but they're like chestnut shaped, basically. And it's called Helix lucorum. And, you know, on a whim, I just got 2 of these, and I'm just keeping them. I call them Snail K and Snail M. Nice snails. And then I also have 1 Tupperware, and in that I have this, like, very weird and large leopard slug. It's a native species to my part of the country. And imagine a snail the size of your hand, all white with tiny, tiny black dots. It's a very elegant animal. It likes eating tomatoes and citric fruits. So there's that. Plus, I've got another Tupperware jar in which I keep all these, like, tiny, tiny snails. And so around, like, weird parts of Istanbul, you have these things called closilid snails, which are these, like, tiny, they're shaped like seashells, but they live on land. So they have this tapering cone-like shape, but they're very tiny and elegant, and, like, they're very easy to care for. I just think they're neat. I keep them on my desktop. I watch them when I'm working. Really nice creatures. In fact, let me bring them up. Just wait a minute. All right, kids, you're on air. Here's the big snail box number 1, live on air. And here is my leopard slug, live on air. Let me just pop open the Tupperware. Aha. Don't worry, they all have air holes, and I regularly miss them. Okay, so I just opened their boxes, and they're just chilling as we speak. Unfortunately, being snails and slugs, they don't have much heavenly wisdom to contribute. In fact, like, one of my snails is in hibernation mode now because it's summer. So, I don't know. Here, in fact, let us do an experiment. Here is the leopard snail. Mr. Leopard Snail, what amazing information you have to reveal for our 40,000 subscribers in the CM Kozman channel. Well, if it said anything, I didn't hear that, but yeah. All right, let's go. So, yeah, I mean, these pets kind of influenced my artwork. I like the spotty pattern on this big slug, so that's an influence right there. When younger, when I lived with my parents and when I was basically in high school, between the years 1998 and 2008, I had a pet iguana named Igor, and he was with us for 10 years. We got him from a pet shop when he was still like an adult, so he must have had some more years on him. But basically, he grew up with us and he passed away with us. It was very sad, and I was really attached to that animal. In fact, one of the reasons I keep snails and slugs and not cats, or like even one of those goddamn like ranchu goldfish, with the little baby-like heads and the fat eyes. If that thing died on me, I would be so heartbroken. I just can't. Oh, by the way, I have another whole jar full of these aquarium snails. They just keep breeding and propagating themselves there. They're like the lowest maintenance pets, so I forgot to add them. Anyways, but the thing is, when the iguana died, I was so sad. And it hurts in a different way, not like losing a family member, different kind of way. You feel that, oh, this poor thing, it had no way of knowing what was coming for it, and we wish we could have done more, and you kind of really get sad, hoping it knew how much you loved it. And watching this animal, I could tell at an early age that this Cartesian bullshit about animals being automated biological machines is just a dangerous fallacy. And obviously, even this reptile could feel curiosity, homologous emotions. When we fed it, it was happy. Sometimes, a corner of the room had a heater, and in some cold days, instead of lying on the heater, it chose to come and like sit on my lap when I was working on the computer. Now the heater had a like pillow on it or something, so like a better source of heat. But because it chose to come to me, I could tell that, okay, this animal might occasionally it had that soul. It's a hill I'm willing to die on. So there. And yeah, maybe it associated me with food, so maybe it kind of like it was kind of selfish in a way, but don't humans make those calculi too in their daily lives? If we have souls, they have souls. Either everyone has them or no one has them. And I'd rather live in a world where everyone has a soul. Everything. Okay. And to answer Marianne's question, yes, this iguana really inspired my artwork. Basically, by watching it all the time, I got a quick primer on reptile anatomy. And I think it really helped me in the future when I was drawing Snaiad. Like, even if it's an alien creature, there's a certain way muscles stand, or like a tail attaches to a body. And, lines kind of curve in a weird way in a natural animal, skin wrinkles in a way, clothes stand in a certain way. And all of that I learned thanks to Igor. Rest in peace, died in 1998, born God knows when, was probably a smuggled animal from South America to Turkey. So really sad. And like, I see reptiles and amphibians all over the place these days too. I sometimes catch them, but I would be so scared to keep one as a pet. I just don't. That attachment and the bereavement, if you will, is just like too much for my heart to handle. One kind of pet I would like maybe to own, But once again, living in a rental place, like still paying rent, priorities first. If I owned my house, I would love to have one of those imbecile old dogs from a pet shelter, really senile, fat, and like he's there with you no matter what. Just so fat and imbecile, but with you all the time. I'd like to have that kind of a dog. Cats, no way. Those things are sadists, but yeah. So my thought on cats as well. Whoa, okay. Marianne is really hitting hard with questions. She has over nearly 30 questions in this list. And in nearly an hour, we only covered like maybe the first quarter. But so this is going to be a multiple question episode. So let's answer the last question. What movies do you find are big inspirations in terms of aesthetics for your art? Once again, great questions. I've been inspired by a lot of films, especially like in terms of theme. Like in this channel, I talk a lot about my favorite films, so you know that. But in terms of aesthetics, there are a few movies I can name. A Prince of Egypt, which is also like looks amazing and is amazing. Wonderful testament to American animation at the end of the 20th century. The DreamWorks animation Prince of Egypt, Story of Moses, the songs, the drawings, the stylization, everything in that film is just pure magic. And I was really captivated by the background pictures, the whole like scenery, the architecture, they kind of like make it look realistic, but all those like gigantic statues. And even now, I wish that God had chosen another. Acting as your foe on his behalf is the last thing that I wanted. This was my home. All this pain and devastation, how it tortures me inside. What a song. I know all the songs from that film by heart, actually. Oh, who daddy. So that movie was a great inspiration for me in terms of artwork. What else? It's not a film, but the traditional Turkish art of Karagöz, the shadow puppetry, is a really big inspiration. I try not to let it show, but these like silhouette-like shapes, yeah. Also, in terms of aesthetics, I like this like Japanese movie called Tetsuo Iron Man. It's basically this student movie about these like weird guys with metal coming out of their faces and stuff. The story is kind of bullshit, but it's like fun to watch. And the way they built this kind of... The movie is very gritty and in black and white. And it's kind of extremely silly, but it builds this universe you really immerse yourself in. Like when you're watching that film, you really think that, somewhere in somebody's subconscious, the Mobius strip, that place is real and you could go there. So I really like that in terms of aesthetics. Like they take all this dust, trash and stuff and make it into a sort of dreamy netherworld. In fact, I really like that in the old original first Star Wars to come out, the 1976 Star Wars, directed by George Lucas. And before it became a bloated media franchise, you could see that the original Star Wars was just a weird movie about a weird adventure by a weird guy. All the effects there, although they were cutting edge, they were like ultra DIY. Before this film came out, nobody had this kind of idea for space being a seedy place where you could go into a weird bar and you could encounter these weird, almost subconscious alien creatures. That the space station had a trash compartment and it had these snakes swimming in it, There's a really like seminal element in the original Star Wars. It's just this like eccentric film that somehow became a runaway success. So that aesthetics in the first Star Wars, especially George Lucas, was a master of using found items, found model parts and stuff and making them work. And many of those like iconic designs were actually like made in the last moment. So George Lucas really had an eye for that. So in terms of aesthetics, I really identify with Star Wars 2. What else? There are a lot of movies There are a lot of movies I like, but aesthetics is a different thing. Ridley Scott films, on the whole, they're just beautifully made. I mean, the Blade Runner and the original Alien films, it doesn't reflect too much into my art, but the whole sense of crafting a believable and consistent world with its own rules and playing in it by those rules in your art, I kind of like look up to Ridley Scott and George Lucas for that. Even though they use joke masks and props, and I use paint and water and spit and turpentine, so there. What else? I mean, some like weird films I really like. There was this film called, my mind is blanking. It was this weird film called, I remember a quote from it, but I don't remember the name of the film. It's about this like weird toxic supermodel environment in like Los Angeles, and it's kind of dreamy. Beauty isn't the only thing. No, there was like a weirdo in the film who said like, beauty isn't the most important thing, it is the only thing, he said. And it's all this like weird, surreally toxic world of these supermodels trying to like best each other, and they're like petty jealousies, and at the end they kill and eat each other. Really weird film. Let me just look it up real quick while you listen to Snails on the mic. Let's see. Beauty isn't everything, it's the only thing. Okay, where's this thing from, goddammit? Movie. Oh, Neon Demon. Yes. Even though I'm not that much into these like evil girl action films, like this film was really something. And of course, it goes without saying, in terms of aesthetics, I'm a huge fan of the creaturey David Cronenberg films, Naked Lunch being the first and foremost of them. I really like the world they're crafting. Weirdly enough, even though in my paintings there are lots of weird creatures and like transformations and stuff, I don't try to make them into body horror, but I guess a lot of people do read them that way, so okay, I guess, okay. So David Cronenberg, Lucas, Ridley Scott, Neon Demon. Also, I'm a sucker for the like cozy, dreamy aesthetics of these like 1990s family movies. Things like Home Alone, or was it like My Girl's Wedding or something with Steve Martin in it? They had this idealized Midwestern suburban town with, the snow-covered house and the Christmas lights, none of them LEDs, all with like incandescent bulbs. And, the Cracker Jacks, the Christmas thing, the family dog, had the like cozy feeling in those films. Even though it was like a complete fabrication, I grew up in the 1990s watching those films as a kid. And especially in my part of the world, this was like imprinted in the minds of a generation as a kind of like, this is what the future is going to be for you. You're going to live in America, or you're going to live an Americanish life where you're going to have the nice things, the cozy things, and the family is going to stick together, and everything's going to be just dandy. And, reality obviously intervened, and I guess not even in the US now you have lives like that, unless you're extremely well off. But, so that was kind of like a sordid hit they pulled on us, but I still like those innocent aesthetic of those films. Like, when I'm planning a kind of, when I'm setting up a table, I kind of like put on some props and stuff so it kind of looks cozy that way. There's nothing wrong with dreaming, even though the films kind of like created an unattainable fantasy that was destroyed by the exact same industries plying those movies, but that's a story for another episode. All right, Marianne, what questions? These questions are so hard and heavy, but thanks for asking them. This is part 1 of a long series, so yeah, there's going to be more and more questions like this answered. If you want to ask them, please follow the links below. Thank you all for listening to this podcast, and if you want to support me on Patreon, please do so. If you want to get some CM Cosman merchandise, also follow the links below. for your questions on Patreon, just follow the links. And thank you all for listening. Thank you, Marianne, once more for these amazing questions. More answers are on the way. Goodbye for now.